Hello and welcome, Angelinos. We thank you for tuning in to yet another brilliant episode of the Galaxy Guy podcast, hosted by Chris Maldonado, a show made by loyal Galaxy fans for loyal Galaxy fans who bleed blue, white and gold. So join us as we talk about the ins and outs, as well as the ups and downs of your favourite team, the one and only, the Los Angeles Galaxy.
Hola y bienvenidos, Angelinos. Welcome back, Galaxy fans, to the Galaxy Guys Show. Como siempre, I'm your host, Chris Maldonado. We are coming at you through your screens and your speakers, excited as hell to talk about our favorite club, the LA Galaxy. We have a great post-game recap for you. We will, of course, be talking about the LA Galaxy's 1-1 draw on the road versus RSL this past... Wait, that's not right.
What happened?
Almost a 1-1 draw on the road versus RSL. Almost caught you guys slipping there, right? Unfortunately, VAR did not go in our favor this time. We're on the receiving end of a bad arguably a bad VAR call if you're a hardcore fan, right? But we'll talk about that. That totally just happened to us this weekend. We were this close to a draw. RSL. It seems to be an Achilles heel for the LA Galaxy for 10 years now? But it happened. A lot longer than that. But it happened. Listen, disregard that. It's going to be an exciting show regardless. Even though the game itself was a bit of a snooze fest. I had my little pillow right here. You know, I took a pillow from my toddler because the game was making me that drowsy. But listen, you all know we've got you covered as usual with our honest, unbiased takes on everything we saw from the LA Galaxy this past Saturday up in Sandy, Utah. We'll break down the stats, provide our analysis, as well as talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the game. Now, as usual, to talk about all of this tonight, we've got joining us my amazing co-hosts, Matt and Casey. Matt, I'll start with you, my dude. How are you doing, man?
You know what? I'm doing pretty well. I took a long trip this weekend. We went up to wine country to do some wine tasting for a couple of days. So it was beautiful. We hooked up with some family who had the game on big projector. It was good. It was a massive projector, took up the whole wall, and it made the disappointment that much bigger.
At least you had wine, right? And all the pain.
We had wine though. My dog might pop in and out of this podcast. He's very needy since I left him alone for a couple of days. So just mind him.
Remind me of his name again. A Star Wars name.
Oh, Lando.
Lando
Calrissian, and also Landon Donovan, the best Landon in all the galaxy.
There you go, man. No, that's good, man. I hear that Ojai and Santa Barbara region is really good for wine tasting. So,
yep,
might try that out sometime. But good to have you on, man. Glad you have a great weekend. Also with us, you guys know him, Mr. Casey Cagle himself. Casey, how are you this week, man?
Doing all right. A little bored, a little frustrated because of the result over the weekend, but we'll get into that shortly, I guess.
Oh, definitely, man. Well, it's good to have you guys on. We're going to try to keep the show a little condensed format. So we'll get all those stats. We'll get the analysis. We'll shoot from the hip. You guys know how we do. But without further ado, we're going to kick it off. We do have a bit of a condensed show, like I said, so we'll hop right into it. First, we'll talk about the build-up to this game. Prior to Saturday's game, the Galaxy was coming in a bit of an unbeaten streak, you could call it, right? If you include the game against the San Diego Loyal, right? The U.S. Open Cup game. That was 5 games where the Galaxy was unbeaten. That is the Portland game, right? Which we beat Portland on the road, which was pleasant. We once again beat LAFC at home in a very thrilling and competitive game a couple of weeks ago. Then we tied Chicago, who at that point was the best defensive team in the league. They had, I think, conceded 2 or 3 goals at that point, something crazy like that. And then the G's went to beat the B team. The G's B team went on to beat the San Diego Loyal at home. That was a U.S. Open Cup game, of course, but it still classifies as a win. And then, of course, we narrowly beat Nashville last weekend in that 1-0 win at home. I don't know, guys. Is it safe to say that for the most part, we should have expected a far greater showing from the LA Galaxy on the road versus RSL. A team that has honestly been inconsistent at best this season. But of course, in classic Galaxy fashion, they had a poor showing at Rio Tinto Stadium. Like I said, a place that seems to be cursed for the Galaxy. In fact, this interesting fact that kind of blew my mind when I was looking it up. The LA Galaxy has only beaten RSL on the road, get this, twice in 9 years. Since 2013, the LA Galaxy has only beaten RSL in Utah twice. That is crazy. A couple of draws in between. But what's the excuse here, fellas? It seems like I've heard a ton of excuses in the last couple days. Utah's the altitude. I get that, right? But what is it really? Tell me, guys. Some excuses that you've heard. Maybe some that make sense. Maybe some don't.
Man, RSL has always been a thorn in our side since that 2009 MLS Cup loss. I don't know what it is, what the stigma is. You can say it's probably Magic Underpants out there in Salt Lake City that are putting an extra layer of mojo on it. But I just can't really put my finger on it. Like you said, Chris, I mean, there are plenty of excuses you could pile up on this away fixture, one being the altitude, two being the time of the day they were playing. But it really just is a stigma that revolves around RSL away. And like you said, we've only won there twice in the last 9 years, which is saying something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a tough place to play. What's your feeling on this, Matt?
Well, in terms of the excuses that I've heard, obviously I think the grass excuse was used 2 games ago, so that wasn't used this time. I heard the field was hard. I heard it wasn't fun to play on. The team bus got caught in traffic.
Oh,
that's
boy.
A real one.
A team from Los Angeles complaining about traffic?
Yeah, it was just very, very difficult. So unusual for our team. So, and then, the usual elevation, but I think going into this game, you would have expected more. RSL was in the bottom third of the league in terms of, I believe, shots on target. Yeah. They were in the bottom third in the league in terms of expected goals. So they're particularly easy to score on. And then as you could tell from the game, they're not very organized offensively. They're not a good team. They're just kind of like squeaking by right now. So I think, you would have expected something a little bit better, given how we had been playing, given the high that we had kind of been rolling on. But, ultimately it comes down to, coaching and then player attitude. So we probably should have had better, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think it was 100% on the bounciness of the field. And the fact that the guys just weren't having fun because of it. But anyway, that's just how it goes sometimes in soccer, right? Sometimes you don't have fun and you just decide to not play. But
some people just don't understand MLS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Soccer experts. Anyway, we'll dive a little deeper into this. Let's get into the meat of this sandwich. Matt and Casey, what do you say we talk about the match itself? Shall we do it? Let's do it. Great, let's do it. Let's dive deeper into some stuff. We're moving into the section of the show where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. You guys know the drill. Naturally, we have to start off with the good. So I'll kick us off here. Okay, let's see. The good, right? The weather was nice, and the grass seemed to be trimmed to the proper length. Great, let's move on to the bad and the ugly, shall we?
All right.
And Dejan Joveljic played more than 15 minutes.
That is true.
Would you look at that?
Played more than 15 minutes. It seems like maybe Vanny, by the end of the season, will have him playing a full 20. Probably. Let's hope. But listen, no, all jokes aside, there were some good moments for the LA Galaxy here. You just kind of have to peel through the layers, right? But some positives to take away from this mostly boring, uneventful game for the Galaxy. First of all, let's talk about positive stats, right? Like, once again, the LA Galaxy, unsurprisingly, once again, beat their opponent almost across the board when it comes to stats, right? You look at again, and I know a lot of people will say goals don't matter. What matters most is possession, right? I mean, Greg Vanny will certainly say that. He'll say, why do you want me to play two strikers when that's only going to hurt our possession, right? But listen, the Galaxy did play very well in the stats, right? Like you look at them on paper, this is a good, solid team. They pass really well. 516 accurate passes total on the night. That's an 87%, right? You look at RSL, they only had a total of 254 accurate passes all night. We almost doubled the amount of passes we did, right? The amount of shots, we almost doubled. We had 13. RSL only had 6. We had more chances. We had more corner kicks. The possession was 64% in favor of the LA Galaxy. RSL, 36% for a home team. They really did bunker down on us. But, you know, we're seeing a team that can pass the ball, and we've been talking about it all season. We've been talking about it for a good chunk of last season. This is a really good team that can pass the ball really well. The problem is they're just not doing much with the possession. They're not doing much with all of these passes and all of these chances, right? So that's really all I can say as far as good, right? Things that we saw from the LA Galaxy. Offensively, they lacked so much, so many missed opportunities. We'll get into that a little bit more in detail. We'll talk about players like Cabral having a terrible game, 0 shots on goal for a DP. That is just terrible. But anything to add on to the good, guys? Anything that you guys would like to add on that you guys saw from the LA Galaxy on Saturday?
I'll just say something very briefly. The Galaxy continued to be difficult to score on.
Mm-hmm.
I think RSL only got 6 shots off. 4 of them happened to be on target. I think the tricky part, and I'm sure Casey will go into it a little bit because I know where he's going on the roadmap. But the tricky part is trying to determine how much of it is our defense being better and how much of it is the other teams knowing that they just need a bunker against us. Right. But the optimist, half full mindset is that our defense is getting better. I'm sure with a little bit more stats bombing, we could probably dive a little deeper into it. But we're working on it. But I guess that's very, 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 very brief.
Matt, how dare you be optimistic on this show? How dare you be optimistic on this show?
I'm a positive guy.
Now, listen, we talked about this during the game on Discord, right, with other guys, and we talked about the pessimism of some fans, and some people will call it being realistic, right? I mean, it's been 7 years since our last MLS Cup win, and the LA Galaxy only seems to have slightly improved. It's not saying much, but there were some good moments in the game. And I do agree with you, Matt. The defense, we are getting harder to score on. But like you said, we're also finding that it's harder for us to score because, and again, we talked about this on the Discord, teams have figured us out. They know that it's very easy to defend us because our plays are coming from the sides. We're playing laterally every single play. We're very rarely going through the middle, because we, again, don't have a center attacking midfielder, a creative player to create those plays, weave those plays through the middle. So we play laterally, and we play the balls to Chicha. Defense, opposing defenses know Cabral is a non-factor, Costa is a non-factor. The only guy out here that's dangerous is Chicharito. Put 2 defenders on him, cover the wings, and that's it. You have successfully shut down the LA Galaxy offense. But it is what it is. Casey, anything to add on to the good moments for the LA Galaxy?
No, I mean, I think Matt hit the nail on the head. This defense, is showing a lot more promise than we've seen in recent years. Our center backs are solid, and Derek Williams, Koulibaly when he's fit, Nick Dupuis, Zavaleta, and then of course our wing backs who have been super effective in carrying the ball forward. They just seem to clean up a lot of RSL's attempts in the 18 a lot better than we would have seen in recent years. And I think our defense is definitely one of the hardest to score against in the league. It's just, making it happen on the other end of the ball.
Yeah. Nope. That's true. Defensively, on paper, this team is better than they were last year, right? But we'll just have to wait and see if the LA Galaxy offense can catch up. So I think that covers the good. If there's anything else to add, I don't think so. But we'll jump now to the bad moments of this game. God knows there were plenty of those. Casey, why don't you kick us off here, dude? I know you have the notes.
Yeah, you brought it up earlier in the podcast, Chris, I mean, this was just a boring game front to back. You could have watched the first 20 minutes of this game and it would have told the tale for the rest of the 90 minutes for you. And frankly, our style of play is very stale and frustrating and boring at the moment.
Yeah.
Sure, we dominate some stats, but again, like possession, we had 64% possession yesterday to RSL's 36%. We just can't do anything with it. We had 13 shots, 4 of which were on goal, which is a pretty abysmal ratio. I think it's 31% of those shots on goal. And like you said, we're always defaulting to the wide option to carry forward or swing crosses into the box or lay a ball across the 6 for somebody to finish. But
it's predictable.
It's predictable. And our carries through the middle are easily stopped up and stifled by opposition playing a significant number of players behind the ball. I mean, you saw it against Chicago. You saw it against Nashville. You saw it again against RSL. It's our last 3 opponents have played their midfield and defensive lines compressed in a low block style. And that's the ultimate way to beat this Galaxy team. And we've been figured out. And it's not even, halfway through the season yet. And it's a little unnerving and frustrating to watch. We telegraph a lot of our ball movement. It's super readable. We have above average passing statistics. Marky Delgado overall this season has an overall passing success rate of 90%, which is incredible.
That's really incredible. Yeah.
And, it all boils down to a lack of creativity around the 18. Like you said, we rely way too much on Chicharito to receive the ball and finish in the box. We don't have any other attacking power, any other reliance on any other players to put the ball in the back of the net. Cabral can't produce. Jovelic isn't getting enough play time. He obviously had that goal called back on Saturday, which
was really nice goal. Super frustrating.
Really nice goal.
Yeah.
He controlled the ball super well, hit it into the back of the net from a half volley. It was
a little reminiscent of Zlatan there, huh? That was really nice on his left foot. It's insane.
In the final third, I think we're just showing the opposition too much of the ball. We need, a lot quicker combinations to be more effective around those areas in the 18. And our only offensive threat on Saturday seemed to be shots from outside of the box. You had Douglas Costa, who had a couple shots, one on goal. Efrain, who was just firing them off into the stands. And, a lot of that obviously is that kind of scoring is very elusive in this league, especially with the kind of defenses you're playing up against.
Yeah.
We're below average in the air too. We won only 8 of 27 aerial duels against RSL on Saturday, which is abysmal.
And we have some height on this team. Team.
The funny thing is the only midfielder forward that has an overall higher than 50% success rate in aerial duels are Kleshton and Kelvin Leerdam. And even then there's a small sample size between the two of them to pull from. I mean, Leerdam's only seen so many minutes. Kleshton's only seen so many minutes this season, but yet they are the only players in the midfield or forward lines that have a higher than 50% success rate in aerial duels, which is pretty baffling and pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, that's horrible, man. I had not looked at those stats, but now that you're bringing them up like that, Casey, that is just horrible, man. No wonder this team, we were talking about this earlier, I think it was on Reddit, no wonder this team doesn't take corners.
That's why they're all short. You get the Greg Van special every time it's taken to the flag, and it's so predictable and it's so boring and stale and frustrating. And we've really we had that 5-game unbeaten streak, but you're really seeing at face value what this Galaxy team can create, and it's not much out of anything. Sure, like I said, we dominate possession. Sure, we dominate other statistics, but we don't dominate where it matters. And
we don't dominate the
Creating
stat
goals
that matters the most. Creating goals, right? Yeah, you could take 50,000 shots in one game, but if you've converted 0, what does it matter? Doesn't matter. Expected goals, my behind. Anything else to add to that, or should we take Matt's? Because I see Matt itching for some.
No. I think Casey gave a really well-rounded analysis. I think he did a great job talking about our scheme and some of its deficiencies and some of its strengths, and
Yeah.
And no, I think Casey kind of nailed it. Casey's very smart when it comes to like, actual like technical knowledge.
Casey's
So
got great technical knowledge of the game, man.
yeah, if I even try to touch his analysis, I'll just scuff it up. So I'll just leave it at that.
The grass was green and the ball was round.
Yeah.
Soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear some people call it football. That's all I can.
No, man. No, that's good. So some bad moments. Casey, some very interesting stats there, dude. I had not considered that, but that blows my mind when you say it. Now, let's jump straight into the ugly, because there's so many ugly takes to take away from this game on Saturday. Things that are just continuous with the LA Galaxy, right? So let's jump straight into the ugly takes. Matt, why don't you go ahead and take lead on this? Lay it on us, dude. I know you're itching for it.
Okay, so I guess my ugly is going to be Greg Vanney. But before I kind of get into, I'm just going to lay like a foundation of stats.
Yeah.
So for the fans. So I think much has been made, in the media about our expected goals and how high we rank in expected goals. So as always, you want to try to analyze trends and see where things are going. But in terms of our expected goals, we got off to a really hot start in the first 5 games, but over the last 3 games or so, our expected goals have been under 1, and spiraling. And even before that, the LAFC one, it was 1.1. You start looking at, okay, how are our best players doing, right? And you have to look at the 3 DPs because those are the ones who are playing the most,
right? And
we're depending on the most to be difference makers, right? And that's not just my opinion. That's something that comes from Greg. That's the expectation that they're going to be difference makers. So then you go to Cabral, and in Cabral's last 13 league games, he's only had 1 assist. This is dating all the way back to October of last year.
Wow.
You take it to Douglas Costa, our brand new signing, who's supposed to be a difference maker, and he's got 1 goal in 450 minutes this season so far.
Yeah.
And I think some of it has to do as well with like a disconnect of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So when Cabral first came into the league, Vanney said in a press conference, we're going to love this guy. He can score with his right. He can score with his left. He's going to score with his head. He can score from anywhere on the field. Well, obviously, we've come to terms with that. He can't really do that stuff, right? When Costa came into the league, right, he was a big brand of endorsement. This guy's going to be a difference maker. This guy's got elite speed. He's very shifty. I remember Greg saying, for example, that he's the type of guy who makes defenses change what they're going to do, right, and how they're going to do it. This is someone like, if you guard him close, he's going to break you down and take you to the cleaners. If you step back, he's going to hit a pass on you, and we really just like haven't seen that. In terms of expected goals, if you look at us cumulatively over the year, our expected goals is above the MLS average, but in terms of the amount of goals we've actually scored, it's below the MLS average, right? So I don't feel like it takes a big soccer genius to figure out that we have a problem finishing, right? That's the obvious conclusion that you would draw from that. Some of it is, Victor Vasquez is still the highest shot creator on our team, and that's without
insane.
him playing. That's without him playing the last few games and him being old, right? So, yeah. You go into that and you're talking about roster construction. And if you look at like, okay, when did our XG start going down? It's right when Victor Vasquez got hurt. We can't relying on Victor Vasquez the whole season is not an actual
it's not
solution.
Feasible. We can't do that.
It's not feasible. Just like it's not feasible to expect Chicha to play 90 minutes every game, especially in elevation and in the cold, and come away with no injuries.
Especially when we start getting into those two games per week, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because it's only going to get harder from here, especially once you hit summer.
Yeah.
And then so Victor's out. So then now who are our creators, right? So you would think, okay, it's got to be Efra and Costa, right? Mm-hmm. Because Efra is the next big phenom, and Costa is the guy we're paying to be a creator. Well, if you look at progressive passing in the last game, Efra had 4 progressive passes. This is according to FBref for statistical purposes. You want to look it up on your own. Efra had 4 progressive passes. Costa had 2. Meanwhile, Delgado and Ryan had 12 and then 8.
Wow.
So those guys are
our defensive midfielders
are out here trying the hardest, and that's not even accounting for whatever Raheem Edwards tried to do.
Right.
And then to Casey's point, he gave such good analysis. What is the net effect of this, right? And how does it affect our team's productivity? And obviously, like, our XG has gone down and our scoring has gone down, but we rely so heavily on Chicharito to score for us. I think people have kind of missed the boat on how much it's affected him. If you look over the last 3 games, he's got no goals, right? That's the obvious one. But over the last 3 games, he only has 2 shots on goal. in 3 games. That's wild for your star DP striker, the one who I think Trooper had said scores 60% of all of our goals. 2 shots on goal in 3 games is awful.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at last game, he got blanked out. 0 shots, 0 shots, and 0 shots on goal. He was a complete non-factor. So
he was invisible this game.
He had a player rating of 5.1.
Yeah.
And that was his player rating.
And against Chicago, I think his passing completion accuracy was 40%.
He's frustrated. He's so frustrated.
So the question is, what does this all have to do with Greg Vanney, right? And it comes down to what Casey said. We've been figured out. Then this is something that has been going since last year, right? Where everyone knows we go to the wings and then we bomb into Chicharito. And I think we were hoping that this season, the defense, if the defense has progressed, the offense would have progressed too. And it seems like we're falling into the same exact mistake we made last year. We're running Chicharito into the ground. If people have been watching the games, Chicharito's been tired at the 70th minute. And this game, he got tired at the 60th minute. He's just wearing down. You can't run a guy like that all the time. You can't expect him to drop back and do other people's jobs and do his job as point the spear. That's exactly what went wrong with Zlatan, right? So what can Greg Vanney do about it? Well, he has the funny thing about the Greg Vanney situation is that he actually has the solution, right? And it's to play a 2-striker set, something we've been advocating for a long time. And if you're on the Discord, has been advocating for a long time. But
which Discord?
the actual Galaxy Family Discord, just the biggest one on the internet, though.
Okay.
But the solution is obvious, right? You see in the last game, for example, when he brought in Dijon for I think of all of maybe 13 minutes. How much more effective we were in that 13 minutes prior to the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And it's because defenses can't just focus in on Chicharito. And you have a very capable second striker in Dijon, who, scored over 20 goals in Europe in the Austrian league. He's the only person, I believe, on the entire team who scored over 20 goals, period, in any season, in any league.
He had his breakout season in Serbia. He had a 14 goals and a couple of assists in one season, and then a 20 goal season prior to joining the LA Galaxy. This is a proven goal scorer in different leagues.
And he was a person who was slotted in to be part of the Serbian World Cup team. Yeah. He was a person who was at one point rated top 50 best young players in Europe at the time. Yeah. And then we've just been sitting him, right? And, last game, Dijon comes in, he saves the day. And we get the win. He saves Greg, right, from an awful press conference. But Greg, being the guy he is not going to be told what to do because Dijon puts him on blast on an interview after the game. So what does he do the next game? He starts Cabral again, and then Dijon comes in and almost saves the day. Has to save him again.
Yeah,
beautiful. I think goal. It was a beautiful goal. And I had said earlier and last year as well that the biggest hurdle for Greg Vanney is going to be his own hubris, right? His own desire to be right versus get results. Yeah. And I think we're kind of seeing that play out a little bit. There are going to be multiple consequences to not playing Dijon. Chicha's going to get hurt. He's going to keep getting chopped down. And as you can see, our offense is getting figured out, and we're going to start having results that kind of reflect that. If you look forward to Austin so far has scored, they're one of the best offenses in the league. Austin has scored 21 goals this season. We've scored 9. Meanwhile, we've given up 7 goals. Austin's only given up 8. It's a very tough game. And if you look ahead further in the schedule, it's Austin, who's number 1 in the West, if not 2. You have Dallas, who's a playoff team, and then you have
above
Minnesota,
us in the playoff line.
Yeah, Minnesota, who's awful. Houston, who's a playoff team, and then you got to play Austin again. Very, very difficult. We talked about the defense being better, but it's really going to be tested this next couple of days. Yeah. And Austin's no joke, and we're playing them at their home in front of a full stadium, in front of fans that really love that team.
Austin has the top goal scorer in the league right now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Drusi, they're number 7. Drusi, who's just scoring for fun, scoring bangers. Scored a banger this past weekend on Saturday. It's just amazing.
And Austin's can score in a lot of different ways. They can score pretty and they can score ugly as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this has to do with, like I said, Vanney his his is just to be right, and he will drive it into the ground just to be right. And he's showing that with Cabral. He's showing that with his inability to change formations. And even though we've seen a little bit of Dijon and the 4-4-2 recently, I wouldn't be surprised if Victor comes back, if we go right back to the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3 or whatever he's trying to figure it out when Victor comes back, because that's his it's a bit of his safety net, right? And then finally, the only last point I make is his man management, right? I had mentioned this last year with the story about the Finches, but Greg has really done a phenomenal job of hanging Cabral out to dry here. Cabral by now, he's already had a season and a third. is a known entity. Everyone knows what Cabral can do and can't do, including the league, who just lets him run free because they know he's not going to make a good decision at the end.
Right.
And yet, Vandy keeps playing him, and it's showing now in the way the fans treat him. Cabral, when he comes on or when he gets taken off, he gets booed. If you go to the Facebook page with the Galaxy, it's always get rid of Cabral. If you go to the Reddit, it's always get rid of Cabral. If you go to Instagram, it's get rid of Cabral.
Yeah.
Yep. And the funny part about it is like, it's almost like Greg has created his own scapegoat in that regard, because when Cabral comes in and plays awful, people blame this kid who's not that good, as opposed to the coach who continues to start him. Right. So I don't know. It feels like a bit selfish, in my opinion, and it feels like Greg's kind of driving us the wrong way. Like I said, we're not doing bad. We were like in third place, but you look at the results this weekend, and we're in a 3-way tie for between third and sixth, right? And if we lose against Austin, we could be out of the playoff picture. It goes just like that. And that's without, Portland, who we know after summer always goes on a run and makes playoffs. Yeah. And that's before Seattle wakes up. It's a very SKC. These are teams we know are coming. It's a very competitive year this year. And my big thing is like, look, I'm not saying the sky is falling, but it's one of those things where like, it's like last year, you don't want to let a leak sink your boat, right? And at this point, you want to see improvement. And if you're looking back at the Galaxy in 2021 and 2022, in terms of points through 9 games, we're actually doing worse this time around than we were last year. Last year, we had 18 points at this point. This time we have 16 points. So although the defense has gotten better, the overall net result isn't better. You know, it's just more of the same.
The points and the stats never lie, man. The points never lie.
Inevitably, they have to be on the board, right? So I guess that's my ugly. I wish I feel like
could not have said it better myself.
I wish
man.
he would just take the solution. I think the most frustrating part, like if we just had a trash team and there was nothing he could do, I would be more forgiving about that. But because the solution is right in front of his face and it's so blatantly obvious, I think that's the most frustrating part to me.
I think too, just to kind of counter that, the only thing glaring discrepancy I can see with Greg wanting to stay away from the 4-4-2 is the lack of a true 10. I mean, you could say Costa's the true 10 because he wears the number on his back. You could say Efra could be in that 10 spot, but we really just don't have a true 10 on this team to fill that spot in a 4-4-2, no matter how you size it up. And I think we would be completely exposed playing that system. Greg would be completely exposed playing that system without a true 10 in that position.
Yeah. Oh man, listen, I agree with everything you guys said. And I'll add to this, right? Because we're talking about Kevin Cabral, Douglas Costa. This is my ugly, right? It is now, we're going into 9 games into the season. That is just about almost the 1/3 of the season, right? 2 of our DPs, Kevin Cabral and Douglas Costa, have yet to play a full 90-minute game. Neither one of them has completed full 90 minutes on the field. And they have between both of them, we're talking about 1 goal and 1 assist in total combined. I know I sound like a broken record here when I talk about this week in and week out, but this is not sustainable. In Major League Soccer, for the most part, the top teams in contention for the title or the Supporters' Shield by the end of the season, they have had major playtime contribution from their DPs. They've played the minutes. They've contributed while they're on the field. This is not something new here. This isn't something I'm pulling out of my butt. This is backed by stats. It is backed by the titles that these teams in the past have won. You have to have your designated players on the pitch, and you have to have them contributing. We haven't seen that from the LA Galaxy in a very long time. We've had DPs that are inconsistent, DPs that are out, DPs that are on the bench, and we're seeing that again with this LA Galaxy team. Douglas Costa, I don't believe will be a full 90-minute player. Greg Vanney himself said as much when Douglas Costa was signed. He said, we're going to use him as a player that can give us as many minutes, right? Never said a full 90. Kevin Cabral's not giving us a full 90, even though he's 22 years old. It's not a lack of like physical conditioning, right? It's just a lack of production, hustle. So if this team wants to get serious and they want to make a serious run, they want to be competitive at the end of the season, Our DPs have to stay on the field and they have to perform. That's my ugly. Anything else to add, guys?
Nope, it was a good weekend.
It was a good weekend. And we've got next game against Austin, right? We're playing in Austin. Very tough place to play. Their stadium shows up. Matthew McConaughey will be there, and that guy's an asshole, but you know what? He pumps up that crowd like no one else can, right? So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. So looking forward to that. But I think we're good, right? We just covered everything, guys. We're good?
Done.
It was great having you guys listen to the show, watching us on your screens. We're always grateful for the support. Follow us on Instagram, which is where our main content, right? That's where we put most of our content out. And that's at the Galaxy Guy Podcast. I want to thank my co-hosts, Casey Kegel. Once again, dude, awesome. Thank you for having Matt Granger, dude. Always great having you guys on. And we'll be seeing you guys next week. Hope you guys have a good one. Chris Maldonado, Galaxy Guy Podcast, out.